What's up, guys? It's Chris for DAV1D on ECFTVN, Aerovapor on YouTube. Today I have another special review. What do you know? 2 special reviews in a row. So, what makes this review special is that I haven't seen a lot of reviews out there on it. Actually, I haven't seen any reviews on it. When I got this device, I went out looking for reviews. Actually, I'm sorry, before I bought the device, I went out looking for reviews on the device and could not find any. It's actually very difficult to even find information on this device. So a lot of the inner working information I have, which isn't a lot, came straight from the vendor. So with that being said, I have the Opus. This is the Opus. Now, for those of you who do not know what the Opus is kind of the second generation Darwin. For those of you who do not want to cradle around this big giant rectangle and you gotta like fold the head when you vape it and you gotta like rock it and it's huge and awkward, and for those of you who don't want that but want the Darwin experience, that's what the Opus is for. Now don't get me wrong, I had a Darwin for some time that I was using and I loved it. I think it worked great. As awkward as it was, it worked. For whatever reason, it works. And I liked it. But this is a little less awkward. The feel is just incredible in your hand. Like, I love this device so far. But before I get into it, let me show you how it comes. When you get your Opus, it's simple. It's going to come in a box that looks like this. You open the box and you have an Opus and a charger. The charger is a mini USB which goes to the bottom of your Opus, and it is connected. It's not like an unplug into a wall wart kind of charger. It's one piece. What you see is what you get. That's it. No instructions or anything that I got with it. However, I've yet to find a set of e-cig instructions that worked well, so I wasn't really disappointed. If you're buying an Opus, you know what you're getting. As hard as it is to find a lot of information on the Opus online, you know what you're getting. It's a set it and forget it type mod. The big difference between the Opus and the Darwin is it doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles that the Darwin had. Like, it doesn't have a screen. It does not tell you your ohms of your atomizer. You know, it doesn't even tell you how many watts you're running at. It's basically just a set to taste mod, which I don't know about you guys, but that's how I run anyway. I don't run on numbers. I'm not a big numbers guy, if you can't tell yet. I am a put it on what I like to taste kind of person, and that's the way that this works. 9 times out of 10 when I set this, I know I'm going to have it on the halfway mark. If you go all the way down, there's a little minus sign over here, and I don't know if you're seeing any of this because I'm on my iPad. That's all the way down to 5 watts. And then if you were to go all the way up, spin it all the way the other way, it's going to be 12 watts, and I'm not going to hit this carto on 12 watts. Like, for me, I know I like it right at the halfway point, sometimes a touch more, but that's my general sweet spot. So I'm assuming that that is around 8 watts. Now, real simple, as far as charging goes, let me get to that first. You plug the charger in, you're going to get a green light. You plug it into your Darwin, or your Opus if you have an Opus instead. Fuck my life. And there's going to be a little orange light here that's letting you know it's charging. And then once the charge is completed, it will turn green, letting you know that it is fully charged. You could unplug it. Now, for the little bit of numbers and technical stuff that I do have, I will spit out coming right from the vendor. So, the Opus has 2 3.7 volt parallel batteries, each running at 600 milliamp hours. So, it is a combined 1200 milliamp hour batteries. You know, that was something that concerned me in the beginning, because to me 1200 milliamp hours is not a lot, especially when it's not straight 3.7 volt device. You know, I'm running it around 8 or so watts, and for me, generally, I like to vape at about 4.2 volts. So I was concerned about battery power. I can tell you, I have never had this thing die on me in the middle of the day, ever. I charge it at night, I unplug it in the morning, I leave for work, and I vape it all day until I go to bed the next day, and then I charge it in again. I have never had this thing die on me, ever. I don't know if you could hear the insane asylum going on behind me with my kids. So, two 3.7 volt, 600 milliamp hour batteries running parallel. It has the DNA12 inside with a 5 to 12 watt range. The charging circuit has a cutoff for safe charging, so when it finishes charging, it stops. So you don't have to worry about over discharge or overcharging of the mod and ruining your batteries. It has a cutoff built into it. It uses a custom PCB, which the DNA12 daughter boards into. Unit uses a custom PCB, which the DNA12 daughter boards to. So the custom PCB is connected to the DNA12 chip, whatever the fuck that means. Like I said, I am not a technical guy. The only reason I'm telling you this is because for you guys who do know anything about these chips and electronics, now you know what's in it. The body on it is currently a maple, which has a beautiful finish, but what I'm being told is that they're actually going to start making it in different finishes. And then the two brass end caps are CNC machined. And he said it works as like a heat sink, the top, so I'm assuming that that means it draws all the heat from the mod into the top cap, which makes sense because when I've messed up on making a coil for my Phoenix atomizer and it's like, you know, 4.5 friggin' ohms, and I have to crank this thing all the way up, I'll notice that the top of the mod gets hot. And so him telling me that makes sense because I have noticed that if you're running this really hot, the top of this mod will get hot. However, the rest of it stays cool as a cucumber. It is just the top of the mod that gets warm. The mod fits perfectly in your hand. It has a sort of little drip well around the edge. I don't know that I'd call it a drip well. It's more of like a catch if you were to over drip. It has a sealed 510 connection. And like I said, it's like a C going around the 510, which if you were to over drip, it would catch. And then just 4 screws, 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom holding it together. I love the button on here. It's not clicky like a tech mod clicky or like that, you know, Mad Vapes button clicky, but it's clicky enough to where you know it's engaged. It has like a rubber finish on it, or a rubber cover over the button, then with a brass ring holding it down. Fires every time. The button is super comfortable. The location of it on the mod is kind of perfect. I mean, you don't have to button hunt at all. It's right where you would expect it to be. Holy cow, can you hear that? I got thunder on that side, and I got 2 kids screaming like maniacs on this side. So that is a look at the Opus. Now, with that being said, you have the Darwin, which is $245. Then you have a Kick, which is $45. Then you have the Opus, which is $248. I'm not sure why it's more expensive than the Darwin. I don't know if it's that DNA12 chip that's in there. I don't know what it is, but it's actually $3 more expensive than the Darwin is. I would expect it to be a touch cheaper because, you know, you don't have the ohms reading, you don't have a screen on here. All those extra bells and whistles that the Darwin has, the Opus doesn't. It's just a straightforward set it and forget it mod. Now to how the whole thing works. For those of you who are not familiar with the Darwin or the Kick, which I think everybody is at this point, the whole point is it's not adjustable voltage, it's adjustable wattage. So you can take a, let's see if I can show you this. Okay, you can take a low resistance carto, which I have on here, and set it. I have it set to around 8 watts. Now on your normal variable voltage mod, if you were to take that carto off and put a standard resistance carto on there, you would have to crank up the volume because it's going to be a wimpy vape. Now let me show you a standard resistance. Same vape. Identical vape as the low resistance, and I didn't have to touch a thing. So the whole point of this is set it and forget it. You set your heat to what you like it, your heat being the vape that you get. The amount of vapor, throat hit, and what have you, you set it the way you like it and you don't have to worry about it. No matter what you put on there, in theory, it should work perfectly and work the same on no matter what it is. There are a few times where that is not necessarily true. And of course I'm not going to have what I need in order to show you. Here we go. Okay. Now one of those times is a dual coil carto. I'm going to leave that set at the 7 or 8 watts I had it set at, and I am going to put a dual coil carto on here. Slightly less of a vape. So if you go to a dual coil, you're going to want to crank this thing all the way up to max output. Now on a 1.5 ohm dual coil carto, this thing maxes out at 4.1 volts. That's what it's putting out right now. I know because I've measured it with my little ohms thingy, or voltage meter. Now some people like to use dual coil cartos at like 5, 6 volts. I do not. So for me this is not an issue. I don't use dual coils that much anyway, but when I do, 4.1 volts is plenty of power for a 1.5 ohm dual coil. As you can see, it's putting out a ton of vapor, plenty for me. I'm getting plenty of throat hit, plenty of flavor, and working perfectly, but you do have to turn it all the way up to the max wattage. Make sure you turn it back down when you go back to your normal cartos or atomizers. The other time that this will vary or change to where it's not set it and forget it is if you're using a CE2 style carto. CE2 being your Stardust, your Vision Ego, Clearamizers, any CE2, E1, E2, E3, those do not work the same as a regular carto. If you go from a regular carto on here, where it's set perfect for you, and then you put a CE2 style on here, 9 times out of 10 it's going to be too warm and give you a burnt flavor. You have to turn it down. The reason for that is all of those top coil Clearamizers run hotter than your average carto because of the way they're built with the wick at the top, and just the build of them makes it so they run hotter. A 3 ohm CE2 runs more like, you know, a 2.4 ohm cartomizer. So those are the 2 times where it's not just set it and forget it, is when you're going from a regular carto to a CE2 style, or a regular carto or CE2 style to a dual coil. That's when it's going to change. But again, I mean, it's not like the Kick where you have to unscrew your mod and then use a little screwdriver to change the wattage on here and then put it back together. I'm not putting that back together. It's just a dial on top. So you just set it, you know by using it around where you like it set. I know for me it's halfway, so it's easy to change. So even though it's not set it and forget it when it comes to a dual coil or to a CE2 style, it's still simple to just change it versus having to open up your tube mod the way you would have to do with a kick. That leads me to my next point. Why not just buy a kick? A kick is $45. The Opus is $248. The kick you can put into almost every tube mod that you already own. The reason is that you may want the Opus over the kick is I don't like to leave the house with tube mods. And this is my favorite tube mod of all of them. And it's still, one, I don't want to leave the house because I don't want to scratch it. But two, a lot of the times when you're out with a tube mod, it's just awkward. I don't like to vape tube mods in public. I just feel awkward walking around a store or anywhere and vaping on a silver bullet. With the Opus, you don't have that issue. It's much better for stealth vaping. It fits in the palm of your hand. It's not a tube-style mod. So that's really, why I know that's what I'm going to get. Why the hell would I buy the Opus when I can have the kick? That's really the big reason why. One is the shape of the mod. It's not a tube mod. And two is it's much easier to adjust. The kick, if you are going from a regular carto to a dual coil or any of those that I mentioned, you have to unscrew it, change the wattage with a screwdriver, put it back together. So it's much easier to change this, and this is much more pocket friendly. I've never had this fire in my pocket at all. The way it's just barely raised off of the mod, it's never fired in my pocket. So it's really, you're buying it for the fit and finish and the feel of the mod over putting a kick in your tube mod. Does it work just as well? Yes, the kick works perfectly in tube mods just the way that the Opus does. So the main reason that you would want to go with an Opus over a kick, if that's your preference, is the shape, the feel, the size of the mod versus having to carry around a tube mod in your pocket, worrying about it going off, having to unscrew it to change the wattage. The shape, the size, the feel of a tube mod. Not everybody likes tube mods. I personally love the feel of the Opus in my hand. It fits perfectly. It's perfect for stealth vaping. It's easier to change the dial, so that's why. For every 10 people out there that say, oh, you're fucking nuts, I'm not spending $248 on that mod, there's 100 people that are on a waiting list waiting for the Opus. So it might not be for you, but it's actually for a lot of people. A lot of people love the Opus. A lot of people are waiting to get one, just the same as they did with the Darwin. So, it just depends. Do you have $248 to spend on a mod? And are you willing to when you can get the similar effect of set it and forget it off of your old tube mod with a kick in it for $45? I don't know. Personal preference. I can't really answer it. It's up to you. I personally love the Opus. I am happy I have it, and I am going to continue using it on a day-to-day basis. This is my go-to mod for leaving the house. This is my go-to mod for while I'm in the house. So it all depends on your vaping preference. That is about all I've got. This ran way longer than I was trying to have it run, but everybody's been asking me to do the review on the Opus, so here it is. The Opus. There's a lot of people involved in this mod. It is sold at nhaler.com, again, for $248. There is a 5% off coupon out there. I will find out what it is and put it in there. There is a waiting list for it, so if you want one, contact Inhaler and get on the waiting list. They'll let you know when they become available and contact you so you can purchase it. But if you're expecting to just jump on there and get an Opus, it's not going to happen. There is a waiting list that you are going to have to wait out for a while. I was on a waiting list for a Darwin for I think like 6 months or something. So it depends. Depends how many they get out. This is getting really popular. So I know they're starting to make it in different finishes and starting to pump them out. So you might be able to get it quicker than you were able to get the Darwin. That's all I got. Make sure you tune into TBN, 8 p.m. every Friday night. I will be on with Jay Upstomp. And then make sure you check out Eva's show and her YouTube page, Evil Woman on YouTube. And she is on TBN, 8 p.m. Sunday nights. That is tonight, Eastern Standard Time. So until then, I will see you later.